My dear brothers and sisters, the Lord is with us. His light guides our path even in darkness. Let your hearts be open to his word. He wasn't doubting his faith. He was preaching it, standing behind a pulpit, Bible open, cross behind him, congregation listening. And then something happened that changed everything.
According to a testimony circulating online, Pastor Samuel Shropshire says he was invited to assist in translating the Quran, not to convert, not to debate, but to translate. At first, it was academic, linguistic, safe, but translation is intimate. You cannot skim, you cannot argue from distance, you must sit with every word. And he says that somewhere in that process, something shifted. The hours spent poring over those ancient texts, the meticulous notes, the quiet contemplation, it all converged, leading to a profound realization.
Before the controversy, before the headlines, before the internet chose sides, he was here, behind a pulpit, Bible open, cross behind him, congregation listening.
Pastor Samuel Shropshire wasn't experimenting with belief, he was leading it. He wasn't searching for another faith, he was defending his own. This was his identity, his calling, his reputation. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, he will give you strength.
Thank you, Pastor, I feel so lost. Let's look to his word. Cast all your anxiety on him. Yes, I will. Let us pray.
These people trusted him. They believed him. They followed him. So what happens when the preacher starts questioning what he preached? According to his own account, the shift didn't happen overnight. It wasn't emotional, it wasn't dramatic, it was gradual. The more he translated, the more he noticed something he hadn't expected. Repetition, the insistence on divine oneness.
I kept seeing it again and again. God is one.
At first, it felt academic, linguistic, safe, but translation is intimate. You cannot skim, you cannot argue from distance. You must sit with every word.
You don't translate a text line by line and stay untouched by it.
And somewhere in that process, he says, something shifted. Not publicly, not suddenly, but internally.
It wasn't a moment, it was a realization, building quietly.
And internally, the shift took the shape of a question, a word that refused to soften. One, the insistence on divine oneness. Again and again and again, God is one.
God is one, not divided, not shared, not layered in mystery, one.
And internally, one word began to echo. One, the insistence on divine oneness. Again and again and again. God is one, without partner, without division, without shared essence. At first, he told himself this wasn't new. Christianity is monotheistic. He had preached that for years. But the word refused to stay abstract. One, what does that actually mean? Is it philosophical oneness or absolute singularity? Is it unity expressed through complexity or unity without qualification? That was when the tension stopped being theoretical, because something older resurfaced. His mother's voice.
Only worship the God of Abraham.
Not the God of tradition, not the God of culture, the God of Abraham. That sentence returned while he was translating, and suddenly, this wasn't about Islam versus Christianity, it was about consistency.
If Abraham worshipped one God, what does that look like in practice?
And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable, because he wasn't just studying theology, he was risking identity. He had a congregation, a community, years of trust. To continue translating meant following the question wherever it led, and he says he knew where it might lead. There were nights when he considered stopping, closing the book. A pastor questioning doctrine is not small. It's destabilizing. It's isolating. It's dangerous.
I knew what it could cost me, but I also knew I couldn't unsee what I was seeing.
And yet, he kept translating, line by line, verse by verse. He says the more he read, the more it felt as though he was no longer analyzing the text. The text was analyzing him. Every chapter reinforced divine unity. Every verse emphasized transcendence. Every line removed intermediaries. No shared divinity. No theological layering. Just uncompromising oneness. And at some point, he realized he had to decide. Defend inherited theology? Or follow where the text had led him?
It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, but it was final.
After translating the Quran, after wrestling with monotheism, after remembering his mother's words, he says he accepted Islam.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله تكبير.
Faith is not inherited, it is discovered. For some, that discovery is gentle. For others, it costs everything.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Tonight, there were no debates, no headlines in the room. There were smiles, there were embraces, there was brotherhood. But at its core, it was still just a man, a declaration, and a choice. He did not win an argument. He followed a conviction. And whether you agree with his journey or question it, one thing remains undeniable. When a person risks identity for truth, the world pauses. Because transformation is never casual. It is personal. And the question is, what would it take to change you?